the three of you, your father has told the world, are going to be responsible for figuring out what to do with all the money that he has built up in Berkshire over the last 60 years. What did you think when he started telling you that, when he started getting to you guys? When did he come to you? What did he tell you? What were your thoughts?
I thought, well, we better get along.
Yeah. It was
Different.
2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know exactly.
Sort of started talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what
It was
happened.
probably March-ish 2 years ago. So whatever. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, just the idea of, wow, you tap dance to work every day for 60 years and then boom, you're going to.
Here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't really remember that it was like some big announcement to us. He just sort of started talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he there were hints kind of as we went through the wills at certain times. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it kind of, some of it evolved, and then he just kind of decided.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was a little bit of, you know, telegraphing of some of it, not exactly in what form or how it would happen, but because we went through, you know, when he would do a new will, we would sit down and he would say, you know, you have any questions or ideas or, you know, whatever. He became really pretty open about discussing that, like at least 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah, he's been very open about
Yeah.
because he's, you know, the will's gone through a few iterations
Right.
over the years, and he's always been really open about talking about it, and you know, if we have any questions. And I mean, I always have little notes written all around the pages.
I mean, he's been
I
open
don't
about
forget.
telling the world that too,
Yeah.
that he
Well,
thinks
he's
is the
down,
right
yeah.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
that's
he
the
is,
right
yeah.
way to do it,
Yeah.
especially when your kids are older. You don't want to leave questions afterwards, and you don't want them wondering why you did things.
As soon as he
Right.
did that, all my kids called me and said, when do we have our meeting? No, I'm kidding. But
But again, the big thing is he amassed this wealth. And so to not be left with a sense of this is what I'd like to see happen with it. I mean, he thinks things through so thoroughly from the time he was in his 20s writing a friend saying, I know I'm going to be wealthy and I don't want my kids to be, you know, he's known for forecasting what's coming. I mean, duh, in terms of the work he does every day, but and really thinking it through. And so to put this out there without giving us any explicit instructions, he's given us some sense of what he would like to see happen in an abstract sense, but there's never been, and that, you know, again, frankly, that's a little bit, gee, I wish we could have a little more guidance because it's your money, you know, it's not ours.
yeah, but that's consistent even in some of the things over the years with Berkshire, because he knows things are going to change.
Right.
And he can't predict
Yeah, he
everything.
can. Completely.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, he's provides what he feels confident will make sense at the time, or at least thinks will make sense at the time, but not, you know, not try to predict it, not try to,
That's, yeah.
He said years ago when he's talked about just about STB Foundation work, he has said, you know, and this is way before there was as much money as there is now, and he has said, you know, this is what I think matters now. My mother obviously was also clear about that. But he's also always said, I don't know if that'll be true in 20 years after I'm dead, or 10 years after I'm dead, or whatever. And so he's always, I think, not wanted to constrain us with, you know,
Yeah,
here's what you
that's
have to
also-
spend it on.
Right.
Because he would say that may not matter, and then
Right.
something else will matter more.
Yeah.
So what guidance has he given you?
The only thing I've heard is what he's also said publicly, really, which is he hopes that the money can go to people, you know, what word do you use? Less
Yeah,
fortunate,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
below the poverty line, you know, whatever it is, that it would in some way affect a population that normally doesn't have the same kinds of opportunities that certainly we have and a lot of people don't have. That's all I've heard.
The
Yeah.
biggest challenge will be balancing the fact, but he has provided, when I say this, he's provided some cushion on this, but, you know, balancing the fact that he wants to see this money spent in 10 years, more or less, and then balancing that with how you lose control over Berkshire voting shares. I mean, that's the
That's
big
the
balancing
trick.
act. Yeah, that's, you know, and you can't figure that out until you're in that moment and as some time starts to go by, because there's going to be, the dynamics change. There's going to be things that happen that no one on that board, none of us can try to, you know, anticipate even. We can anticipate some things. Some things will be obvious and others won't be so obvious, and you don't know who they are, you know, what they're after. So, you know, that could affect how fast you want to lose or give up,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, voting power.
Right. And it feels like you have a little flexibility on that count too.
Yeah.
Just as
He
well.
has
as
gotten
us.
more flexible.
Yeah.
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 Fortunately.
What did you think when he said that you three were going to be doing this, doing it together? It had to be unanimous, and you're in charge of all of it. Did you want the job?
Nope.
Peter really didn't want it.
I did not want it. Yeah, and I made that
Really-
clear.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Peter really
And,
didn't.
and honestly, when I called him up and said, you know, I want to opt out, he said, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You know, I
Well,
mean,
he'd say that to all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
He actually thinks it's kind of funny that we have to do this.
and understands that it'll put us, obviously, enormous pressure on us. And so the idea, again, like we've been saying, around what are we going to do? It's like there's too many variables. We have no idea what we're going to do in this moment.
Yeah.
And that's great that we all know and agree that we can't start
We don't
saying
know.
this is, yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, as a parent and an outsider watching this, the vote of confidence in the three of you, how much he trusts you, is the thing that kind of jumped out the most. Does that hit you too?
Yes, and it's very nice. I mean, you know, it is. It's a huge, giant compliment.
I think that none of us, you know, so we have a very different view of it growing up in the environment that we grew up with and how we see, you know, my dad and how we see my mom. So I think, you know, for us, in a way it's a surprise and in a way it's not a surprise. So he knows 100% that we are going to try to execute exactly what he asks us to do. And then he knows that we've had a lot of experience now understanding how to figure out the things that we don't know today and how to do those efficiently and effectively in the future. So, you know, to me, in one way, because of how we grew up and the things that we listened to forever from him, it was
And
a
Mom.
surprise. Yeah. And then in another way, it's like, I don't know, he gave us this opportunity for several decades now to figure out how you give money away, how you do it effectively, how you do it efficiently, and how to make those decisions. So in that regard, you know, I would say it's not a surprise because he kind of began preparing us for it.
And I would just add the other part of this, I think, is that he knows nobody can do it certainly perfectly, and nobody is so.
The only reason why he lets me do it.
I mean, there is the element of, okay, nobody's going to do this. Yeah, this
It's
is
just too much money.
unprecedented.
Yeah,
it's
it's-
unfathomable what we will be charged with. And why not us, who's closer to the source and has grown up and all the things.
Yeah.
So,
But when
yeah,
you,
there's an element of it's a beautiful gesture and it's a convenient gesture to
that's
some
true,
extent.
and he would say that.
You know, and okay.
Yeah. But when you start trying to write $200 and $300 million checks, you know, only institutions can absorb those or governments. And I'm not a big fan of writing checks to institutions or governments.
Right.
So, you know, in some ways we're going to have to make some decisions that we typically wouldn't make, but we have to make sure that the money's used and used as well as it can be used. So we'll be making decisions that we typically wouldn't have made today sitting here.
And we'll make some mistakes.
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good at
And
that.
that's okay.
I do that all the time.
Well, when you say that you don't typically like to write those checks to governments or institutions, is that because of the bureaucracy involved? Like your dad's always talked about bureaucracy, or is it other?
I don't trust them that much to make good judgments, or they have big overheads, or
And governments change.
Yeah, and governments change, and you know, we in every grant we give, even to every organization that we give to, we have a key person clause in it. You know, and we even write the grant letter that we can terminate any grant at any time for any reason. You know, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Now we also work in a lot of places where things can happen quickly that, you know, you wouldn't expect. You know, I mean, in terms of Eastern Congo or something. So you need the flexibility, but still, that's how we operate. Is how I think, and you know, we have done some things with governments, but in those cases, we have put in a lot of extra controls, and we did something with the Ugandan government one time when I thought this is a little crazy, but if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. It was to finish a peace process, and so we had a full-time accountant, like every day. It was his job to see what was happening, and I feel like it came out well. But you know, it's not where I would typically go to look to give money.
You each have had a different philanthropic path, and you've been doing this again for decades, working on this. Why don't you each talk a little bit about what matters to you, and how you just started with that, some of the areas going to war zones, going and looking at agriculture. What drives you? What are you interested in?
Well, I think part of what drives me is just learning, and for me to really learn, I have to see it. And it doesn't mean I can't read a book and learn something, but it just, you know, I've been to Africa 97 times, and the 98th time that I go to Africa, I'll learn something, you know. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's just, you know, every time you put yourself in a dynamic environment, you see things, you get to ask different people questions, you learn things. I mean, you just, so for me, you know, look, first we start out saying we're going to try to focus on the most disenfranchised populations that we can. Mm-hmm. So that puts us in places like Africa, right? And in some places in Latin America and whatever. And then it puts you, if you really want to go that direction, it puts you in conflict and post-conflict areas. So that's where we focused. And I have, right or wrong, I've always had this attitude that in the United States, if we have the political will, we have the ability to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. We have a system that can do it. Doesn't always work that great, but it can work. We should have the financing mechanism. We have rule of law. So we should have the ingredients in the United States to solve any problem that we have in this country. That is absolutely not true in some other countries. And so that's why I've focused in those areas. They're the toughest areas to work, but I also, you know, I love going to those places, and I love being there. And
this was predictable when you were about 4.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think all of the way we approach it was predictable when we were about 4. Yeah, in a certain kind of way. I mean, I think probably lives are predictable when you look at what happened between, you know,
extension of our personalities in a way. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So what was your personality in the extension, Peter, that brought you?
Well, I mean, first to this point, really,
yeah, I want to hear this answer.
I think of philanthropy. I think philanthropy is applied philosophy. Like how you look at the world is how you're going to move resources into it. That's kind of obvious, but I don't think that clear realization that it's really just applied philosophy. It's what your worldview is, and then how you put it into things. And so I certainly remember, as I'm sure we all do, going around with my mom in North Omaha and visiting with people, or I'd come home sitting at this
people
table.
Around this table.
Right. I would sit at this table at lunchtime in elementary school, and there would be somebody with my mom that didn't look like us. And I would really sit there and recognize that my mom realized, and this is to your point, really, my mom realized everyone has something to teach. And so if you listen, you can learn. And then with philanthropy, if you learn, you can then apply it based on the relationship. And so strangely enough, and I think this applies to all three of us, but when Howie describes what he's doing, I do the same thing for the same reason in terms of I have to know the place. Like I went to Sierra Leone and Liberia and a few places, Bangladesh, saw where the t-shirts come from. It's overwhelming to think that, you know, at first when we got the foundation, like we can change the world. It's like,
Not going to happen.
and so we've retracted. We tried things, and I'm sure some were effective, but I had to be in a place where I could be there essentially every day. And so every Sunday I sit with a woman in Midtown Kingston for hours. To
Kingston,
learn
New
what's
York.
going on. Kingston, New York, exactly. And we have a laundromat. We have these things. Now we're doing work other places as well, but to be in place and see how complicated just that little teeny corner is. Again, I'm sure Susie sees it all the time here. It's like, oh my God, first of all, everybody's related to everybody else, and there's so much generational stuff, and but I'm sort of drawn, I think, the same way Howie is. It's just he's out here and I'm in here, but we're motivated by, I think, a lot of the same things.
Susie, you kind of picked up where your mom left off in Omaha, and this has been your place along with early childhood development
Yeah.
too. So how did you come to that path? Because you weren't always in Omaha. You traveled all over the place.
No, I was in California and DC, and then I ended up back here in '88. And I honestly thought I would move back to DC when my kids got out of high school. And then my mother died, so I didn't move. And that's why I'm here, is that I'm pretty sure I would have moved otherwise, really. I love Washington. I still miss Washington. But
Maybe not right now.
so I wasn't going to say that, Howie, but
I know, but
not right now. But so anyway, when we got the first money, which was 2000,
Yep.
and it was either 30 or 50, you guys may remember this, 30 or 50 million dollars.
It was 50 million that went down in price. It was 35.
Okay, because
The stock went down.
well, we got one chunk
Yeah.
then, and then I think on Mom's birthday
You're right,
or something,
35
she
million,
added
yeah,
another
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
piece. Anyway, at that time, the thing I wanted to focus on was K through 12 public education, which we heard plenty about when we were kids growing up. And my dad's always said if he could make one amendment to the U.S. Constitution, it would be that there would be no more private schools. And because the people with the voice and the power opt out of the public schools. And so I went to the superintendent, actually, at the time, who was a wonderful person, and said, I have this money. This guy could have really basically gotten probably all the money at that point. And he said, don't give it to me. He said, find out who's doing the best work in high quality birth to 5 for the poorest kids. Do that. He said, we need these kids to come into kindergarten prepared. That will change the K through 12 system. And I still believe that's true. So we started working in early childhood. And that was how that started. We went off to actually Chicago and found the first Educare Center. Peter and Jennifer built an Educare Center in Milwaukee. And that's where I was focused for quite a while. And still, that's our single biggest grant, is to now a separate C3, the Buffett Early Childhood Fund, and they do all the early childhood work. But then we got more money, and staying here in Omaha, but also Nebraska, we're starting to do work all over the state, and still with a focus on poverty, poverty alleviation, social issues, social justice, and that's almost all of the money at this point still stays in Nebraska. And that's, it is kind of an extension of my mother's work, because we do a fair amount of work in North Omaha and also in other places now too.
You three obviously have a common upbringing. You understand each other and agree on a lot of things, but you have areas where you don't agree too. I would say you're not always in sync on politics and other things too.
We'll find out, won't we? Nothing like a little pressure to see
we're probably not in sync on politics. Peter and I are probably more in sync on the politics.
Yes.
And this one,
but not
that far.
not
I
that
don't.
far.
I don't think. I think he's. You know, kind of come around.
Maybe.
This is where we get into the hear no evil, see no evil,
Yeah.
speak no evil.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just, it's interesting the way your dad set this up, that it has to be a unanimous vote, that
Yeah.
everybody has to agree. I mean, it's kind of brilliant, but it's also kind of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do we
I
do
don't think
this?
that'll be a problem though.
No, and it's
I really
funny
don't.
because
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, social media when that first came out, oh my God, that's going to be. I'm thinking you're telling us more about your childhood
Yeah.
than you are about ours.
No,
So there's
we'll
that.
figure it out. You know, and we'll make some trade-offs with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know,
there's so much
just-
money.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh my
getting
God.
in a fight about it is
Yeah.
Seems
Ridiculous.
crazy. Right.
crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, when you think about how much, if you know, let's just say it's $150 billion a day, just to pick a round number. You know,
yeah, roughly.
it's not really $15 billion a year. It's more than that.
Because it keeps growing and
Yeah,
compounding.
I mean, and you know, so depending on how fast it grows, so you know, it's something that actually, from a private philanthropy, it's something nobody's probably really done, and certainly not as a family and 3 kids that are doing it together. So it'll be a new experience. I'll put it
Big
that
experiment.
way.
Yeah, and again, you know, pop culture has Succession, or you know, these various shows that show all this stuff, and that's what people love to feed on. Is like, where's the problem
Yeah.
going to be, and all and we have had no trappings of any of that growing up, so we're just not. We're not that.
We grew up expecting nothing. To be honest,
Right.
with you. I mean,
That's
to put it simply, I mean,
Yeah,
not to,
totally.
but I mean, you know, we were told that we had to figure our own stuff out, and we were allowed to fail and make mistakes, and then we understood the consequences. And so I think Peter's really right on this. That you know, you watch
Wait,
the show.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you won't hear it again. But you know, it's like watching the show Dallas or something. I mean, that's been on
Right.
there for a long time. But you know, all this stuff, and it's like we don't have any of that drama. We don't have any of that. I mean, it's not like it just doesn't happen. And so I think people have this false. Well, not everyone, but you know, some people have this false impression of what our family's like. I think most people probably have a false
Yeah,
impression of
that's
what
true.
our family's like.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so that would then, you know, it would extrapolate then into this whole idea that we're going to give away all this money. How the hell are we going to get along and do that? And I just don't think it's going to be hard.
You know, my dad wasn't rich and famous when we were kids. We did
Right.
not grow up like people probably think we grew up,
yeah.
For sure.
and we didn't. So
Yeah.
How did you grow up? Describe it.
around this table, normal.
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up. You know, we were certainly very
didn't need
fortunate.
anything.
We didn't need anything, but you know, we went to public school. We lived in a regular neighborhood. We hung out with our friends. We didn't, with the exception of a deal Howie made with my dad, but we didn't get cars when we turned 16. I rode the bus to school, you know,
all did.
until I got out of high school. We grew up in what I would call sort of a normal middle class, on the upper side of middle class, but we weren't living in the rich neighborhood. It was pretty normal.
You didn't even know what your dad did at one point.
None
did
of
you?
us.
No,
did,
we didn't.
But
None of us
you,
really
you
knew.
have the story. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was in first grade when we had to fill out those census cards, or second grade, and I wrote. My mother told me to write security analyst, and I thought he checked burglar alarms.
So there's that. And then in my career, most people thought it was related to Jimmy Buffett.
Oh,
that
yeah, of
nobody
course,
knew
music.
who Warren
Because of
Buffett
music,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, we used to. I mean, not that this is any big deal, but you know, we'd earn this allowance for, you know, cleaning out gutters and cutting the lawn and raking leaves and stuff. But Warren got pretty clever, and he started giving it to us in quarters, and then he bought a slot machine.
Dimes.
Yeah.
Dimes.
It was a dime
His
slot
at first. Yeah, and then he
He
bought
got it
this-
all back
and
every
yeah,
time.
and then he bought the slot machine. So he would get most of his allowance back. At least with
Yeah.
me, he got a lot of it back. But I mean,
We were all
you
up there.
know,
The neighbor kids would bring their dimes over.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
you're
probably
trying to
have
get
some-
3 watermelons when you pulled the lever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know,
So teaching you about gambling along the way too.
Yeah,
Right.
well, but we never did. I mean, I'm about the most anti-gambling person there is.
Because you lost all your dimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we all had jobs too when we
Yeah.
were kids. You know, I mean, it was pretty normal, which I'm grateful for now.
Yeah.
And you know, so I don't know. I don't
I mean,
think,
it was normal, but we certainly had everything we needed.
Yeah.
We knew we could go to college and didn't have to.
Right.
you
I'm
know,
not
I
trying
mean,
to make it sound like it was
Yeah.
no,
hard
Yeah,
in
I
any
mean,
way.
yeah, we never had a very tough day in our life in terms of getting through.
No.
You know, but still, it's not what most people would perceive
At all, yeah.
Because, and I think Susie made this point that, you know, we weren't. My dad wasn't rich growing up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when we grew up, he was driving a Volkswagen for a while.
Yeah.
Then he had to start
Had a blue
picking.
bug.
Yeah, he started having to pick business associates up at the airport. So he upgraded to, you know, a Cadillac. But, you know, I mean, it was only because he had to. It wasn't because he wanted a Cadillac. He didn't care what car he drove.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom used to drive. God, she would take me to my after-school stuff in Uncle Freddie's old beat-up station wagon, and I was so embarrassed because it was like going to break down any time. But you know, I think she did it to prove a point to me. Like, it just doesn't matter what you show up in. I mean, you know, so I got over it. But I mean, it was like,
What do you think that did to all of you? I would imagine at the time you may not have been super appreciative of it, but what do you think? What impact did that have on who you are today?
Well, one thing I think that had really a huge impact was just living in the house with my mother in general.
Yeah.
You know, she was so active, particularly in the North Omaha community, but she was very active in the volunteer things she did. Also Planned Parenthood. She was president of Planned Parenthood. And she lived it. She didn't just write the check, she lived it. And she took us with her. Mm-hmm. She was on that panel of American women.
oh yeah,
And, you know, I used to go with her sometimes several nights a week to go sit and listen to her talk on this panel. And the panel was a black woman, a Jewish woman, a Catholic woman, and, as my mother would say, a WASP. And she was the WASP. And this is in the 60s. So the black women had a story really to tell, because it was not that far out
Black
of
Panther days.
right, and the Jewish women had all been in the camps, and I mean, so it was really an interesting group of these four women who would go around and speak to Rotary Club or in the church basement to the church
And
group,
high
or-
schools, I think, too.
and yeah, and you know, so we saw she lived it, and we got, and I'm not kidding, around this table, you always did come home from school, and no one looked like us at the
Right.
table ever, and
Yeah.
it
I mean, we
just-
had an exchange student from Sudan when I was like 4.
yeah, we had exchange students all the way through,
Yeah.
Mostly African.
Thank goodness for Vera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
Who
Czechoslovakia.
says he didn't like it?
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
No, I
Say
didn't.
that, never mind.
I didn't. But yeah, I mean, so we just, and it was just normal to us.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
how it was.
I think that's the distinguishing
Yeah.
feature now in my life, is that I don't carry this sort of otherness that most people do with people that either don't look like them or, you know, have a different cultural background in whatever way. But we were so exposed to it, and I think certainly the people I interact can feel that in a way that I can't quantify.
And Central
And we-
integrated
yeah.
that a little bit
Central
too.
High.
Yeah, the high school we went to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it
Definitely made a
changed my
difference.
life to have the women that stayed, and you know, I joke with Vera about Vera, but that's how I got to go to Czechoslovakia.
It started you. On
Yeah,
your,
I
it
think
did.
it did. It jump started me. I was 14 in 1969, and I traveled by myself to Czechoslovakia, and Vera had me over there for a few weeks, or almost a month, and I learned a lot from that, and I think that just ignited my adventurism. I mean, you know, we got chased by some Soviet soldiers, and they took my film away, and I mean, like, you know, it was just
All
like,
the stuff
like
that's
this is
still-
great,
yeah.
you know. I mean, like, why would I want to do anything different? But I mean, like, so honestly, I think so having, you know, it happened to be that particular woman, Vera, who was there as an exchange student. But I mean, we had others, you know, Sudan, Kenya. So I think the fact that my mom made the decision to bring people in and live in our home and share our life with them and them with us, that had a huge impact on me because I had that opportunity. That really probably changed the trajectory of my life in some ways.
What has your dad has evolved over your whole lives with him in terms of the basic ideas of what he wanted to do, which was to give the money away. But how he wanted to go about doing that has sort of evolved. At one point, it was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where it was funneling a lot of the money. What's your view of this evolution and his thinking through this? What's it been like from where you all sit?
It just seems natural to me, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not.
He is. Don't you think I think he's mellowed, he's evolved, he's grown. I'm trying to think what other adjectives, but since my mother died, I think. I keep saying to people, you know, he turned out he was listening that whole time.
Yeah.
You know, it was just fascinating to me how you could kind of see the wheels turning in his head in various ways after she died. I think he knew he needed to step up.
It forced him to change.
Yeah, and he needed to step up, and and he had to. Mom wasn't there to be the person who was
The buffer.
the buffer, the person talking to us. I always say the governor.
Governess.
Yes, sorry, Peter. We don't know what her pronouns were. She never told us.
Right.
But
I have no pronouns, but anyway.
and he's. I just think it's been so interesting to watch him evolve through all this, and also, you know, she died in 2004, so 21 years ago, and she. I think his thinking about things comes from a lot from her, and now, well, with the Gates, when he gave the money away in 2006, we were how many years younger? Almost 20. Horrifying, but true.
Yeah.
You know, and we had very little experience, and I think he's watched us over the last 20 years. And one thing I was going to say earlier, actually, is the other thing that I think has helped, first of all, it's easier to get along when things are set up the way they are with 3 separate foundations. I've encouraged friends of mine who have a lot of money, who have their kids in a foundation, to split it up. You know, everybody, because some people have said to me, oh, but I think it'll help them get along better. No, it'll help them not get along better, is the truth. So I think that was really smart on my dad's part to do it. Well, I guess Mom was alive when that happened.
Yeah.
She probably was the one that thought of
Give
it.
her some of the credit.
I'll give her a lot of the credit, Howie. And so I think that was a really smart thing to do. And I think that's helped us because we've all been able to do what we want to do. And I think it's safe to say we all get why each other likes and cares about the things we all care about, and we all respect it. And sometimes there's some overlap. Once in a while, we've worked with both my brother's foundations on some stuff.
He couldn't stand the fact that I went to Liberia and he hadn't been there yet.
Yeah, I was there the month after.
Be careful don't see a mountain lion. I'm really jealous. But anyway, so my dad, I think, you know, all these years pass, and it started to make more sense to him to just
It's actually quite complimentary.
hugely.
I mean, the fact that each of us can do the things we're doing has its own different value to it. And so it's better than having 3 people who think the same way and want to do the same thing. I mean, it's actually, it's a better setup. To Susie's point, I think, is it will make it easier when we get to having to give away the bigger money, because we'll figure out how all 3 of us can do things we want to do and things that we want to do together.
Yeah.
And it will not be that hard to do.
Well, and you cover more ground if you each kind of carve your own path.
You know, they spend, the majority of their money domestically, and we spend 85-90% of our money outside this country.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at a different population and different challenges and different problems. But, that's a good balance right there in terms of the fact that Susie and Peter can focus their energies and time on things here at home, and I'm off doing something else. But it just, I really think it does balance out.
And Alan spends a chunk of money.
Well, Alan spends a lot of
Outside,
money. Yeah.
And
Globally.
explain who Alan is.
Alan is my ex-husband. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Among other things. Alan is the president of the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation. Has been since 1987, I think.
Something like that.
87.
Late 80s.
That's a
And-
weird relationship that you guys are all super comfortable
I know.
with your ex-husband.
Yeah.
I don't have an ex-husband.
With her ex-husband.
Just for the record, I would like to make that point.
Yeah. And Peter and I are both, I chair the board.
board,
Peter's been
yeah.
on the board for years. No, Alan, listen, there's nobody better than Alan to be doing that job. And he and my mother worked really closely together for
that's
a
the-
long time. He knows what she wants. He knows how to spend that money, and he feels, Alan spends every day thinking, am I doing what she would want? And, I trust him 110%. But he gave away over $1 billion last year. Wow. Yeah, and it'll be 1.3 billion this year. And does most of it outside the U.S.
He does do a lot outside the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have an office now in Rwanda, and they're about to open one in, I think, Addis Ababa.
Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So people would think giving away money like that is an easy thing to do. But I think you all have probably learned over time, some stuff
Not so
works, some
much.
stuff doesn't, and it's not easy to find the right way to do it. Can you maybe each describe a lesson that you've learned over that time? Like, what's something you took away?
Well, one thing, when you say it's not as easy as it looks, it's true. And I sometimes I have a hard time talking about that because it sounds sort of like, oh, poor me, and we're
Right.
so lucky. And so when you say, and I don't mean you, when one says, it's hard to do this.
Well, hard to do it and get the results you're hoping for.
I agree.
Maybe that's the way to say it. You don't want, like, you could throw the money off the rooftops.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is affect a change.
Right.
And that's not
And
always
that's hard.
easy. Yeah.
And sometimes impossible.
And you've learned how to say no.
Yeah.
Have you guys gotten hit up a lot since your dad made the announcement?
Well, I don't know that it's that much more.
it's
I've
Fun
gotten
enough
hit
a
up more
little-
since January 20th.
Oh, there's, okay, more need
Yeah.
for it.
People are
Yeah, and that's continuing
Well,
to,
yeah, we have been approached a lot because of the USAID funding being.
Yeah. So we all have different.
Yeah, for
I-
different
I-
reasons. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think first of all, he made the announcement multiple times and it seemed like no one paid attention.
Yeah.
It's true. That's
It
true.
was so funny.
He says this will be a big deal,
trying
and
to
I'm
say-
like, it
Not
wasn't.
really, not really. So it never got that much attention, I don't think. It did with some people, and some people in Omaha said to me, am I reading this right? And yeah. Which may be part of the issue is that people didn't think.
until it actually
But
happened.
people get it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
After that article in the Wall Street Journal, I can't tell you. I got 30 messages from people saying, "Oh, congratulations on your new job," and it's like I don't have a new job,
Yeah.
not yet. So I think people just read stuff either quickly or they have their own interpretation of what it means or whatever. And so, yeah, I did not, as far as his announcement, I did not get like a barrage of, oh, you got all this money or you're gonna have but we got a lot from people on the USAID funding that was eliminated. And, my message to the staff immediately was we are not replacing USAID money. That's not our job. We couldn't do it. And with a few exceptions where there's one exception in Ukraine and one in El Salvador, where we will end up replacing some of that money, but it's kind of an extension of what we're already doing or something. It's not because we're really going in to replace the money. It just happens that we will step in 2 cases, but it's not as specific to say, oh, we're going to step in for USAID.
I'm worried about the Head Start money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is really going to happen when he passes. Then.
Oh, well, then we'll get,
Then,
and we'll be wrong
Oh,
about
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Then
Yeah, and it's not, I think a lot of people I don't know, they don't read it or they don't pay attention to it or they skim it or something because you know, the few people that have asked me about it, I've said, we don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's not going to be the next day that we.
no, even
suddenly-
then, it's going to be a
Yeah.
slow
And that'll
process.
definitely be a
But
misunderstanding.
I have it figured out, because when this does happen and they start asking me, I'm just going to say, oh, well, I have to call my sister. Here's her number. You know, so I just like.
Well, but that's an advantage of the unanimous
It is,
part.
Right.
Right.
That's the advantage
Yeah.
of the unanimous
Yeah.
part.
He's definitely talking
It
about
is.
that.
It makes
Yeah.
it really easy to say no. You know,
Right.
sorry, it
Can't
has
do
to be
it.
unanimous.
We'll be
My brothers
blaming
would hate that.
each other. I
Yeah.
tell you that.
Well, I'd like to do it,
Yeah.
but my brothers would hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be that.
Call them.
Yeah. So
And then in terms of a lesson, the only thing I can really think of right off the top of my head is like what we've talked about, which when Jennifer and I both were traveling more internationally, I came back and said, you won't know if you don't go. You know, that was like an obvious thing.
Show
that
up.
You had to be there.
Yeah, show up.
And, you know, he will show up in places that most people wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
And by the opposite turn, again, that's what's so interesting about it's like two sides of the same coin. I show up in a lot of places that people can't imagine I'm at, but it's a laundromat in Midtown Kingston, you know. And so,
Yeah.
but it's the same kind of dedication to really trying to understand the place and the people. So, and obviously you're
Yeah,
here.
no, the same
so
thing
you-
happens.
I'll-
Yeah.
I'll tell you a lesson I learned that maybe this is too specific, but it was interesting because it changed a lot for me. I learned two lessons that changed how I gave money away. One is, one day somebody said to me, no one will starve to save a tree. And I realized I was doing a lot of conservation work with cheetahs and other, you know, and it changed my mindset. And I changed how I gave money away, because I realized, okay, if you don't make sure that people can survive adequately, you can fund all you want in conservation, but it ain't gonna make any difference. They're gonna keep cutting trees down, and they're gonna keep destroying ecosystems. So that was one thing. And the other thing I learned from a guy named Gary Haugen, who runs International Justice Mission, is, you know, people would say, well, you know, how do you address poverty in like a place like Congo or Sudan or Burundi? And, you know, my answer was, well, you have to give them economic opportunity. But the truth is that wasn't quite the right answer. It's part of the answer. You have to do that eventually. But what Gary taught me is you can't do that or anything else if you don't have rule of law. And so we started figuring out that there's a lot of things you can fund that will go nowhere, because if you're not addressing the real issue of rule of law, then you just can't have success. So, you know, you can't own a business. You can't grow corn if the rebels are going to steal it. You can't or burn it down, or you can't, you know, whatever it is. And so those were two lessons I learned from just other people and we do things differently and very different. I mean, like tens of millions of dollars differently in terms of spending because of those two lessons.
I think you said something earlier that's also pretty important. That's you have a key person clause in
Yeah.
each of these, because people create everything. People walks out the
No,
door,
no,
the
yeah,
mission
yeah,
walks
right.
out the door, the culture walks out.
But the other thing we have in every grant letter, and people absolutely do not pay attention to it, if there's one phrase anybody on our staff does not want to come ask me, it's these guys want a no-cost extension. And they know that just, you know, in most...
I'm sorry, what's that mean?
Well, no cost extension. So we give you $10 million for a project, and you finish it in 5 years, and you have $1.2 million left over. And they'll come and say, hey, we want a no-cost extension, meaning we want to use that $1.2 million, and we're going to do this and this. And they may even connect it quite well to the 5-year project you had. And my answer is either you calculated it wrong, you didn't perform the way you were supposed to, or you just misjudged it, which is fine. But the $1.2 million belongs to us, not you.
Right.
And we almost always take it back. And people are not used to that. I mean, the organizations that we deal with are so used to, we have the money, we get to spend it. And it's like, it's not your money. You give it back to us. Now, with some of the really big organizations we deal with that where we've done hundreds of millions of dollars with over time, we keep they keep what we call a restricted account. So we know we're going to do more with them. So they might have the $1.2 million left. We say put it in the restricted account, and then we'll agree later what we're going to do
Does
with
that incentivize them though to spend it all? Like even if it's
it.
not
Well,
going.
you know, that's a good question because but here's the thing: they have a budget, and then within the budget, we have very tight limitations. Like you can't shift from this line item to that line
Yeah.
item more than 3%. You can't change, so it's pretty tight. So it's very hard for them to go out and spend a really big amount of money in a line item because they can't get it from anywhere else.
Right.
So we've thought about that. It's not you can't control it perfectly, but we've not really seen that happen.
Susie, any lesson that has really snuck up on you or surprised you over time, something that didn't work out the way you thought?
Well, things sometimes don't work out the way you think they will.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
So I was going to say
Yeah, that can be a good thing.
Or can turn out even better than you
Yeah.
thought.
We call those successful failures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
yeah.
I mean, you learn enough.
You learn from it,
Yeah.
and sometimes you just learn that it didn't work and you couldn't have done anything else. But sometimes you learn it didn't work and here's why, so you change it.
Right.
So I
We did a complete annual report about our failures one time, maybe 10 years ago or something. You should have seen what it took to get information from our partners.
Right. Around
But we can't give that. You're going to use that against us. No, we're not going to use it against. We're just we actually had to give 2 organizations a letter that said that we were not asking for it to use it against them, or in the future they wouldn't get money because they made these mistakes. I mean,
That's like best practices, though. You want to figure
so,
out.
you
but
wanna
they're
figure it out,
so
yeah.
paranoid about it. I mean, you have to, and we have done projects with some organizations that are larger, and it's amazing. They think so differently, particularly if they get a lot of money from somebody like USAID. They think a very certain way,
Yeah.
they process a certain way, and it's so different than how we operate. And it's almost like sending them into shock when we say, no, we don't do it that way. We do it this way, and you have to do it that way if we're going to give you money. And they make the adjustment. I mean, they figure it out. But they, all money that is given is not given equally in the sense that, people behave differently. They have different processes. They have different expectations, and so, we've forced that into the partners that we have. But we have 5 or 6 partners where we give tens of millions of dollars a year to regularly, and we've built that trust. I mean, that's another lesson I've learned is that if you can really get good partners, and there's give and take on that,
and then you can trust them.
yeah, and then you trust them. They know how you operate. They know what your expectations are, and the same is for us with them. And that has helped us a lot, and particularly where we work. Because one thing we found in Colombia is after they signed the peace agreement in 2015, there were almost no U.S. NGOs working in that country because of 50 years of war. Right. And it was very difficult. So as we started to find a few that could do it, we had to build that relationship, and we had to help them build their teams.
I've also made it super clear when we do work with an evaluator, because some things we do want evaluated to see if they work and why they didn't. But a lot of the people that do that work think you want to hear a certain thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And
We want the bad news.
I want every bit of bad news
Yeah.
if there's bad news. And it makes the nonprofit nervous. And the evaluators think, oh, if I tell them it's bad, I might not get hired again. And you have to get super clear with people about, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We want to hear everything.
And then the famous 2 words that happen a lot of places, but certainly in philanthropy, is unintended consequences. So and again, it doesn't have to be bad, but the amount of times you think you're going in, and so many things are symptoms as opposed to the problem. So you think you're going in to solve for something, and you go, oh my God, there's this thing behind that, and this thing behind that, and if we do this, it's going to affect this, and we hadn't thought of that. It's way more work.
I had unintended consequences on the cheetah reserve. I got bit by the cheetah.
That's an unintended consequence.
That was an unintended consequence.
And also to what Susie's saying, the performance aspect of all of it can just be something to navigate and figure out where all the distortion is, because people are telling you things they think you want to hear, or you'll say something and they'll just be listening for that word that they need to use to get the thing. And it's...
And I would even say in Omaha with, my staff has said to me many times, it's so refreshing to be in a place where we can screw up, we can make a mistake.
Totally. Yeah.
Because they say they go to these, especially conferences out of town, they'll go with where there are other foundations from around the country. And those people make comments to my staff about, really?
Yeah,
You
we
wouldn't
hear
get
that
fired for that?
all the
Really?
time.
It's like,
Yeah.
And we don't send anybody to any conferences.
Right.
we don't go to
I'm kidding, I know.
No, but we don't go to many. We don't
Yeah.
go to many, but there are some that are really worth. There's only probably 2 or 3 a year that anybody on my staff would say are worthwhile, but they're there with all the other foundations you could name right here, and they are afraid to go back and talk about anything that might not work.
I mean, one thing you have to do, I think, to develop leadership within your own organization is to give people enough space and enough responsibility to make mistakes. And then how you react to that is super important.
Yes. Not you're fired.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you know, that if you're going to build a competent staff and people who can learn the kind of judgment you want them to have.
And you're sort of charged with taking risk.
Yeah.
So there's,
Yeah.
you're bound to,
Well,
it
I
sounds,
I call philanthropy it's the risk capital of the world, because it's like, you should just be out. I mean, like we will get criticized by, other philanthropists or someone who's in a particular area and they think they know more about it than we do, or whatever it is, we'll get criticized. But at the end of the day, and they've probably done this too, but I have been in places where I've made a $50 million decision right there after a 2-hour meeting. And, it's like, we want to do this, we're going to spend the money. And people are like, okay, let us know when you make the, no, I'm making the decision.
Right,
We made it. It's going to happen.
That happens
Now,
all the time.
you have to follow our rules in terms of, how we give the money and all that. But usually that gets done. So, it's
That's the other thing that's unique, I think.
It's a huge luxury.
Yeah, because most foundations, the staff isn't allowed to, make any decisions or even say, we're interested in this,
Yeah,
we might want to
right,
do this. And then they have to have a board meeting.
Right.
And then the trustees have to look at it and they vote on it and decide if it's going to happen. It drags everything out.
Slows the process.
a lot.
And the
And
performance.
right, it
stuff
just
that-
changes the whole way everything works. And people are always amazed that we just do it just like how I said. It's like, yeah, we can do it.
It's fun, actually.
Yeah.
It's fun.
hearing you all describe that, it just occurs to me that it sounds an awful lot like the philosophy that your father and I guess your mother
Exactly.
used with you.
Yeah,
Like-
there's way more of that at work than I think people.
And it's
realize.
also the philosophy I think he uses at Berkshire.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
he makes decisions
We,
like that.
we now,
My
I
good
have to
people.
remember, we hired someone, but we now have 23 people. We're almost at $600 million we'll give away this year. And at 500 million, DevEx did this little chart when I was speaking, and they showed that we, no offense, Bill, but that we gave away 25 times per person more than the Gates Foundation gave away. And, that's good and bad. I mean, I will tell you, we actually should have 10 more people. We really should. We have no depth in key places. That can be a problem if someone decides to leave. We have, a total now of 10 program people that are giving away $600 million. I mean, it's not, now Ann and I help with that, but that's a lot. And we should have 10 more people. I mean, some foundations would have 100 more people, but,
Yeah.
but I don't even want 10 more people. People are a challenge. I mean, you got to manage them. I mean, like I'm not sure. And I hate vacation. I hate vacation.
that make it hard.
People go on vacation, and then But I mean,
They have lives, they have children.
like, come on, what's going on here? But it's just, everybody you have to manage somehow, and so that is obviously we want to be lean and mean, but sometimes you can be a little too lean and mean, and we're probably a little that way. But I'd rather be that way than not. I mean,
My staff doesn't want anyone else hired.
well, that could be true too.
I mean,
But
really.
our operating percent of, and Alan's is actually I think lower than ours, which is almost impossible. But our operating percent of distributions last year was 1.3%. Okay, so you compare that to, and I think Alan's was like 1.1 or something. I mean, like, you know,
Very proud of it.
yeah. No, but it means
it's-
you're running, you know,
yeah.
and then so that's an important data point, and the
Yeah.
other important data point is how effective are you with the money you give away, and you know
Right.
those are the two pieces that are the most important. But
How effective and how efficient.
yeah, well, we're efficient if we're
Yeah.
1.3%.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So
Right.
so then you know how effective are you? But you know it just we all have pretty lean staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was ingrained in us. Okay, that isn't. It's not even a conscious decision so much as it's just that was just ingrained in us. That's how we know that that's what our dad would expect us to do, and it's what I think we are the most comfortable doing because we just think it's the best way to do it.
And you lose culture once you start.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
yeah. The day I don't know somebody's name who's working for me,
right.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
That's what Alan's challenge is.
Yeah.
That he's really
Oh,
had
he
to
needs
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
He's had to
Yeah.
add, you know, and he misses the days when everybody was in the office and he knew what everybody's
Yeah.
kids were doing and what, you know, all of that. And he just
But it
can't
does
do that
change.
anymore.
I mean,
it
it just
changes
changes.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how much you all are so much like your father and how you do this. Like it's really so much like your father and how you take these operations. It's the same
Yeah.
way he does.
We
with
taught him a
businesses.
lot,
Yeah.
Becky.
He was listening to us.
It never occurred to me until I was sitting there listening, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. And then you throw our mother in there,
Yeah.
and you've got
Yeah.
a pretty potent.
Well, I always say if it weren't for my mom, I'd be in jail. So, I mean, like, you know, it could be
If it
true.
weren't for my mother, my dad would be in jail.
Yeah. So,
If it weren't
well,
for
we
my
could
mother, I wouldn't
you know,
be here.
cellmates,
Let's take
yeah.
it down to the.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was
Yeah.
fascinating to hear. You guys have thought about this so much more than I think you even realize because
Probably
you each have
true, yeah.
philosophies, and they overlap in so many ways.
Right.
I mean, that kind of blew me away. I mean,
Yeah.
I once the other thing I thought of is I once did an interview with your dad about what was your worst trade and what you learned from it. And you guys had very similar thoughts. It's great. It's great to
Right.
fail.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's great to fail. That's
But
what you
he's
learn the
always
most.
said that to us.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
said,
Again.
Yeah.
you know, we're not doing anything if we don't fail.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Well,
then
but he
you're not
said that in
taking
the
any
letter.
chances.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he said that in the
it's
letter.
easy to write a check to the symphony and the, you know, and they take you out to lunch once a year, and you know that's easy. And we do write a check to the symphony because I'm in Omaha and I want to support the Omaha stuff. But you know that stuff's easy, and we get lists of what other foundations give to periodically, and it's all good stuff. It's all safe, and we give to a bunch of the same stuff, and then we give to a whole bunch of other stuff that other people won't do.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they wait for us to do it for a year or two and see how it goes, and then they give to it.
Well, there's three, in my opinion, there's three mistakes the way private foundations operate. And I will get blasted by other people for this. Number one, 5% is too low.
Oh,
They
way,
absolutely-
Number
way.
one.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, number
Ridiculous.
two is that your operating cost should not be counted as part of your percent of distributions. That is just ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, and number three, those are two more, you know, process driven or whatever. But number three is foundations just don't take risk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
they
they
just
don't.
don't take risk. And you know, to me, that's the greatest value we have with our money
Yeah.
is to try things that other people might not be able to try, and be okay if it doesn't work. You know,
Right.
and it's one thing I would say that everyone on our staff knows is if something doesn't work, it's okay.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's not okay if you really screwed it up and did something you shouldn't have done. But if it failed for the reasons that you knew going into it might be the challenge, then that's okay.
I mean, my staff will, sorry,
Go ahead.
Peter.
Yeah.
My staff will come to me with some idea, and it's like, you know, and they're like, I don't know, what do you think? And I think, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And again, Silicon Valley is filled with venture capital. I mean, that's what
Yeah, well, that's it's venture capital.
this country is built on venture capital,
Yeah.
for better or worse.
Yeah.
And the fact that a sector that doesn't actually have to have a return isn't doing the most adventurous things is crazy, because we're not beholden to shareholders. We're not beholden to some kind of return. And yet they're often the safest, and so many foundations, you know, live on some kind of legacy, and everybody there feels great about doing good, but they don't work there to try and lose their job tomorrow,
Right.
which is what they should be doing.
Right.
That's
We
so
have a
true.
sunset
Yeah.
clause on our foundation,
Right.
and I think it's 2045. But I'd be 90 anyway. But you know, if I make it that long,
You better
but,
make it.
But I mean, we just we can't say what we believe in if we aren't doing it,
Right.
and so we will try to spend all our money. Now it's not so easy to do it because you have to kind of calculate. You know, you got people working for you, and you've got to unwind things, but you can figure it out. And it may not work exactly the way you want it to work, but the idea is that we should be giving away as much as we can give away intelligently and effectively while we're here doing it. I mean, and my dad sent that message long ago with us when he said, you get the money as long as you're alive. I mean, you know, and we're not going to just fund something, you know, that's
It's great to have people that want you alive, though. We never have.
Warren always says, if you think you shouldn't say it, don't say it, but I'm going to say it.
Good.
No, you already know this. I was having a discussion with him about going to Ukraine, and he's not a fan of me going to Ukraine. And he says, well, just tell your friends over there, they'll get $300 million more if you're alive.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, that is not what I'm going to tell my friends. But, it's such an incredible opportunity for us to do it. And we all see it that way. And we all really believe that. So I think that affects how you do it. It's not work, you know.
Right.
And it's
And it is.
no, I mean, but I mean,
But it's
yeah,
meaningful work.
yeah, and I do think, and this would be true, and somebody like Mike Bloomberg would tell you this, but I mean, like, you know, if you're the one that is the founder or, you know, the initiator or however you want to say it, if you're there, you know, that makes a huge difference. And that's why, you know, another reason I think you give the money away while you can, because, you know, you're going to drive it in a whole different way. And you're going to have expectations of everybody that works for you that people are going to understand differently because, you know, I mean, sometimes I tell Ann, you should, our president, I tell her, you know, you should just make that decision. And she says, it's your name on the door. Right. And so I don't want to make that mistake. So I get that. But, you know, at the same time, you know, you've got to empower people to make the decisions, and then you've got to get the money out the door while you're alive, because it does drive decision making differently.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
great.